Hey y'all, I'm Cassie. I am a North Central Florida gardener. Think as far north as you can go, but in the center of the panhandle. Think counties like Columbia, Dixie, Suwannee, Hamilton, Madison. I'm sure there's more in that list, but I'd have to Google. And I am zone 8B/9A when they changed it last year. So yesterday I did a video, and unfortunately when I uploaded it, the sound quality is pretty poor. So we're going to go through and basically talk about the same things that I talked about yesterday today. So yesterday, if you watch, I went through and I watered and fertilized my entire garden, and I used something called fish emulsion. And fish emulsion is basically exactly what it sounds like. It is dead fish, and it smells like dead fish. But you basically mix it with water, and then I just go through and I pour it at the root base of each plant. I talked yesterday about why I like a liquid fertilizer better than a granule, and that is because a liquid fertilizer like the Jack's Classic that I use and this fish emulsion is readily available for your plants. And what the heck does that mean? It means that the minute this starts soaking into the ground and gets to the roots, it is available for the plants to soak up the nutrients and use them right away. Now, that doesn't mean that I do not like a granular and that I do not use a granular. Granular fertilizers tend to take 2 to 3 weeks to start breaking down, and that means that there is a delayed time for absorption for your plants. Just because I use a liquid fertilizer does not mean that I do not use a granule. I just think that there's a time and a place for a granule. So granule fertilizers take 2 to 3 weeks to start breaking down. That means that I could go through and I could sprinkle a granule fertilizer all over these beds, but it would not be available for the roots of these plants to start soaking up for 2 to 3 weeks because the granular has to be mixed in with the soil in order for it to start breaking down. Now, I do use granular, but I only use it at the beginning of the growing season. So I amend all of my beds 6 weeks before I plant in them. That means that I go through with any type of manure that we have on this property. We have horses, cows, goats, and chickens, and I go through and I level off all of these beds with the compost and manure. Then I go through with something like this Epsoma garden tone and I sprinkle it into the beds. That is giving it 6 weeks to start breaking down before I ever go in and plant plants into my garden. The only other time that I use a granular is when I plant the plants. I do go through and I top dress a little bit each plant with the granular fertilizer, because when you transplant a plant, you're giving it that 2 weeks for that to start breaking down a little bit more into the soil and fertilizing them. Then after those 2 weeks, I come in with my liquid fertilizers, my water soluble fertilizers like Fish Emulsion and Jack's Classic, and I rotate every other week for the rest of the season. This method has worked really well for me. It's kept my plants from getting diseased right out of the bat. And I think it's just because there's no delayed response. And while there's a ton of science behind gardening and what works and what doesn't work, there's a lot of variables that go into that. And what I do here in my garden may not work even a mile down the road. Shade, heat, humidity level, soil makeup, those all come into play. So I learn each year based on how my garden produced what I could do different next year. It's always good to take notes so that then next year you know, hey, I might need to do this different. As always, you can drop your questions in the comments and I will try and answer. And I'm so sorry that yesterday's video had horrible sound quality. I'm new to YouTube, so we'll get it all straightened out. But thanks for tuning in.